He broke into her house in the dead of night, stood over her in a balaclava, woke her up, tied her up, beat her, brutalised her, then went downstairs and just made himself a cup of tea. Fairley's crime spree began in April 1984 and lasted until late August of the same year. His victims were varied, ranging from the young to the old, both men and women. What made Fairley so terrifying was his chilling MO, which blended calculated burglary with extreme violence and sexual assault. The nickname the Fox didn't come from slyness in his escape, but from his bizarre and unsettling habit of literally building a den inside his victims' homes. Fairley, originally from Sunderland, would sometimes break into a property when the occupants were away. Once inside, he wouldn't just grab values, he'd settle in. Just imagine a home invader spending time watching TV, taking food from the fridge, and building himself a makeshift fort or den out of blankets and furniture in the living room. This wasn't just burglary, it was a deeply disturbing invasion of personal space, a violation that went beyond the material. He would often observe the properties he planned to target in advance, adding a layer of premeditation to his actions. Whilst his den building was his strange calling card, the most horrific part of Fairley's crimes occurred when he broke into houses when the occupants were asleep. Waking up in the dead of the night to a masked intruder is a nightmare scenario. But Fairley's victims faced something far worse. Typically, victims would awaken to find Fairley standing over them, often wearing gloves and a mask to conceal his identity, and brandishing a shotgun. He had fanned and then sawed off the barrels of a shotgun early in his crime spree, which he would use to subdue the occupants. The level of violence Fairley employed was shocking. He would tie up victims before committing sexual assaults or brutalisation. One particularly notorious offence occurred in a bungalow near Edlesborough. Fairley broke in and found 3 young adults. When the oldest man woke up and went to the bathroom, he was confronted by Fairley, who was wearing a balaclava and holding the stolen firearm. With the men tied up, Fairley then violently assaulted the young woman, with the men being forced to watch. In one incident in Leighton Buzzard, a struggle with a victim resulted in a hand injury from the gun. Fairley later claimed he had never loaded the gun again after that incident. Whether that was true or an attempt to minimise the terrifying nature of his threat, the shotgun remained a core part of his intimidation tactic. He was also known to remove photographs from albums and take items like clothing and anoraks from his victims' homes, further demonstrating his intrusion into their private lives. The pure fear Fairley installed in the region was immense, particularly because his attacks crossed multiple jurisdictions, complicating the police investigation. He would often make his escape across open countryside like the wild creature his nickname suggested. Fairley was finally captured, and when questioned by police, he immediately confessed to his offences and made no attempt to resist. He later appeared in Dunstable Magistrates Court and was found guilty of several initial charges, including 3 counts of brutalisation, 2 burglaries, and possession of a firearm. By the time he reached St Albans Crown Court, his charges had expanded, and he even asked the court to consider a further 68 cases. Malcolm Fairley's reign of terror as the Fox remains a dark chapter in British true crime history, a stark reminder of the vulnerability of the home and the unsettling nature of an intruder who didn't just steal possessions but shattered lives. Thank you for listening today, and remember, stay behind the yellow tape.